Okay, now I know most of it's done, but don't worry. We have a structure that goes up on the rooftop, and then we have this smokestack that also gets put up on the rooftop. So I'm going to show you how to achieve this effect on here and also on here. And then let's quick go over some of the details. All of the metal. The first thing I do is paint it with gunmetal gray. It's a metallic color from ammo. Once that dries, you can put a wash over it. And on this, I used these two right here. Track wash, which is, as you can see, a dark brown wash. It gives it like an old rust look. And you can go over it with a lighter rust, which would give it a newer rust look. And that's light wash, or light rust, sorry. All of these are from ammo. And then I do some pigments, and I think I have another one, yeah, right here. It is light rust pigment. Now the loading docks, the kit comes with plastic ones, and I did not use those. I used pink styrofoam. So I buy a large sheet of it, and it's a 1/2 inch thick, and then I just slice off my little loading docks and then just paint them to look like concrete. And then after it dries, just simply brush on some pigments to add some dirt and weathering. Now the pipes on here, I have no idea what these pipes are for, but it gives it a industrial look. Really gives it the look of a factory. And all those pipes is a straw. Now this is a stir straw. You can probably go to Starbucks and pick up a few of these. And that's all it is. And then I just found these end pieces in my scrap box, but you could take, say, like a piece of scrap wood that's an 1/8 inch thick, cut it into little squares or rectangles, and glue those to the end. Now the wires that you see on there, again, I have no idea what they're for, but it gives it an industrial look. It is just regular thread. I don't know if it tells a thickness on here. It's just regular sewing thread. And I have this in gray, brown, and black. On this model, I used black. Now the trick with this is to take a small container full of water or alcohol and add a little bit of ink. I used black ink, or if you want, just a drop of black acrylic paint, and then take a long piece, and soak it. Just soak it in there. Then when you glue it on, now the thread has some weight to it. So it'll actually hang and like bow a little bit. So then just simply take some super glue, glue it at one end, let it sag a little bit, glue it to the other end. And all I did, this is a little scrap piece left over from the tugboat kit that I built in a previous video, and just cut off a little square, a little rectangle, and then glue it and paint it to look like metal, and then put your string in between those. And if you want, you could take I don't have any handy. I have blue masking tape, and you could cut, I do have some right here. You could paint a little section of this black, then cut a thin, very thin piece and make little bands to make it, even with the pipes, if you wanted to do bands and make it, and then just stick it on there and make it look like it's secured to the building with these bands. And you could paint that a dark brown, like bittersweet chocolate, and then add a little bit of your light rust pigment to it, and it's going to look like a metal band. Even with your straw, if you wanted to, cut strips and wrap it around in certain areas. Just wrap it around so it looks like maybe 3 pieces of pipe with fittings in between them. Then spray it with a gray primer. Then go in with your gunmetal gray and put a wash over it and some pigments, and you've got a rusty pipe. Okay, let's move on to painting this in this. The first thing we're going to do is spray this with a gray primer, and we're just going to use a rattle can. Okay, our pieces are all sprayed, and this is what I used. Now, I didn't have a back wall that really fit, that didn't go all the way up. In the kit, on the side wall, there's a little piece that comes up, and I had to cut that and glue it in there, but it's okay. We'll just add a roof card and maybe just throw in a little piece of trim or plastic to fill that. It's not really going to show. Okay, so let's move on quick to painting this. The first thing we're going to do is grab some tan colors. You could use desert sand, iced coffee. What I used was Castle. It's a chalk paint. I actually, let's see, I think I used that and desert sand. We'll just grab a little palette, shake these quick. You're just looking for some tans and grays. Not real important because most of it gets covered. And I'll definitely show you. So I have a brush that's wet. Okay, so we have two paints on the palette. Okay, lots of water. And then all we're doing, then we'll go to the other color. One direction, going downward. We could actually take some of the iced coffee now. Paper towel. We'll quick dry this. And you'll see when it dries, it's not as dramatic. I just dip my brush in water. Let it sit for just a few seconds. Notice I'm going lighter than the first time. Okay, we'll dry it again. Okay, that one is done. I'll quick do this one and then we'll come back and start to put on our top coat. Okay, for the top coat, it may look like this is white, but it's actually gray. It is called Gray Sky. Now up against the dark gray that's on here, it appears lighter. And real quick, I never use pure white or pure black on my models. It just to achieve a look of scale and to make it look realistic, you don't want a pure white or a pure black. For example, if you had a football field and it had black cars parked in a row and you photographed it looking from the car closest to you all the way down to the furthest car, hopefully that makes sense. If you took that photograph and printed it on paper, and if you cut out the car that was last and you cut out the car that was first, if you put those next to each other, you would have a gray car and a black car. Colors fade the further away that they are. So you're looking down at a model railroad layout, or even if you're at eye level, if it's further away from you, obviously everything is much smaller than real life, so it appears further away already just because of the size, even if you're at eye level. You want that color to be lighter. I hope that all makes sense. I kind of went through it quick, but that's just my theory on it. I just don't like using pure black or pure white. And another reason is when you photograph it, if something is pure black, it just disappears in the photograph. It's just like a black hole. And then if it's white, it's just a bright white. You don't see any detail. It just doesn't work well. I'm using a tile grout sponge, and I really pick at it. You can pick at it with tweezers, and you want an irregular shape. You don't want it to just be flat. Let me grab another palette. So first dip it in the paint, and then keep sponging it, taking some off. There would probably be quite a bit of paint chipped off the bottom, so we'll go pretty light towards the bottom. Now you'll notice that as more and more of the paint is coming off the sponge, you get finer dots, a finer pattern, right? So as soon as you start to see that, even if you didn't make it all the way to the top, if you only made it halfway and you start getting really fine dots with it, then go back through. You want those little dots, especially in N scale. You don't want giant dots on it. I'll be honest with you, the reason I didn't do a full video on this is that I've had a cold and I'm just getting over it. Now, something I did, and I suppose I could show you really quick. I hardly have any left, so I don't know if I can actually give you a demonstration. I use, it's called Misket, and it's basically a rubber cement. Yeah, I don't have enough. I don't think I have enough to show you. I'll try. Yeah, you can see there's a clump in the bottom. This is pretty much done. But what you do is, you probably want to do this with a sponge. I don't know if this is thick enough. Bear with me. I'm trying to make this work. I don't know if it's going to, but yeah, I don't think it's thick enough to show you. All right, well, we'll see. We'll let this dry and we'll start sponging on. But this is done. So wash this brush quick. If that rubber cement dries in your brush, it will ruin your brush. So in theory, what you do is you put that on there and then you paint over it, sponge over it just like this. And then when you're all done, you can rub that off. You can peel it, and it gives it a really chipped paint look because it gives the thickness, like it gives the paint a little bit of thickness, where right where you peel that off, it gives a nice edge, and it really creates the illusion that the paint is chipping off. Now again, when most of the paint is off of your sponge, you want to go back over areas to put in fine dots. Okay, now you're going to want to take a small paintbrush, and with that same color, you're going to want to paint areas like in corners where it'd be protected and the paint wouldn't chip off. There's a little bit of an overhang, so maybe underneath the overhang, put a little bit more paint. Okay, so I've sprayed the windows with a reddish brown primer. Then I made a wash with bittersweet chocolate and a lot of water and just brushed over it, so it just kind of goes in the cracks, and then let that dry really good. Then we'll just simply cut these out. We have an extra door for our scrap box. You can always cut off little pieces. Not so much on these two here, but I'll show you that there's a little piece of plastic that I cut off one of the sprues and just glued it right there to the side. And it's just like a little vent. You could actually glue a thread to the bottom of it and string it over to this box here. It's a little detail. Okay, now the kit comes with plastic windows. Throw them away. Worthless. What you want is clear acetate. Now you can buy an entire box of this on Amazon. It might be like for an overhead projector or for the classroom for something, but you can buy a whole box of this that would probably last you a lifetime. Now the reason you want to use this is because you can paint the back side of it. I don't know if you can see all those little white squares. Looks like the windows have been replaced, or some type of repair is being done on them. Just gives it a factory look. Right? Now, if you try doing that with the thick plastic, it's not gonna, it just won't look good because the plastic is so thick, and if you're painting on the back side of it, you're gonna be able to tell it's just too far away. You want it to be right on the other side of the plastic so it's visible. Okay, for gluing the windows in place, I just take my super glue, and you can use regular plastic model glue. Just put a little bit above the top and bottom of the window where it goes. Take your tweezers. Okay, now we've got our door. Same thing, we'll just put a little glue in here. Okay, and if you've watched the channel for any period of time, you know that if I get a little bit of super glue on my fingers, okay, gone. Okay, I just took some black paint and I work upside down. So just start dabbing it. Use a sponge, dab it, and have a lot of water and let it run down. That makes it darker at the bottom. Then when you flip it over, it makes it darker at the top. And we'll go in after this dries. We'll go in with some pigments and do a little bit more. Okay, next we're going to start with light rust wash. And we're using odorless thinner. Mine's getting pretty dirty. I need to get some more. Okay, so you can see I'm just dipping my brush in it. And we'll just put some on the palette. Then, now I put the actual wash, the pigment, next to it. And then the thinner is over here. So you want to just slowly sort of mix the two. It's very subtle. And if you get too much of a straight line, just dip your brush in the thinner and go on sides of it. So wipe your brush off. Take your thinner, dipping the brush in the thinner. Put that over here so you can see. And then go right next to the area you painted and soften it. You don't want a hard edge. And the great thing about this is that it'll have a very soft edge. It'll look like a natural wash of rust. Where if you try doing this with acrylic paint, you'll get a hard edge. It just won't look like it's bleeding into the concrete. Okay, I don't know. Then we'll quick dry this. It's thin, so it dries really fast. You can also use, this is oil paint, and this is raw umber. And it works great too. This is just so easy because this takes a little bit more work. You have to know how much thinner to add to it. This is just pre-done. It's great. It's just straight out of the bottle. Okay, now we're going to go with Trax Wash. And you can see it's a dark brown. So you can see I've got the dark brown and, well, the Track Wash and the light rust. And then if you keep your thinner in the center, so blend it on the palette. Get a nice thin wash. Now with this, I actually, so if it's thin enough, it'll run. So I'm kind of creating shadows and then wiping it off of the raised area, the surface there. Let me zoom in for a second. Hopefully the camera is catching that. Okay, now that that is dry, these are soft pastels. And you can see in the corner, there's a nice rust color. Okay, we got to get our roof card put on there, and then we'll get our smokestack put up here. Okay, everything's glued on the roof. I even added some vents up there. Added a couple pallets and a barrel down low. Same over on this loading dock. I can take the camera off and give you a closer look. Now there's still work to do. I'm going to do lots of weathering on the rooftop. I need to add a piece of trim back here and back here. I'll have to cut that out of styrofoam and paint it to match. But this is very close to being finished. All right, well, the great thing about all of the techniques that I showed in this video is that they can be applied to any scale. Just keep in mind that you want to keep things in scale. So if you're working on N scale, things need to be quite a bit smaller as far as like chipping and rush streaks. Just don't go too big or get too heavy-handed with any of these techniques. All right, well, if you liked today's video and any videos that I produce, please subscribe to the channel. Your support means so much to me. Or you can do what all of these great people have done and become a Patreon member. Now, I've been working on this project for a week, and all of these people got to see photos, progress photos of me working on it. So if you're a member, you get to see projects that I'm working on. And you can go to my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jason Jensen Trains to become a member. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.